Welcome back to Northwest Elite Spirit. I'm Coach Brian, and if you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. This is my personal journal on face life's battles like a warrior. Before we begin, I'd like to remind you that I am a student just like you. This is me practicing these ideas and these principles that Don Juan has laid out in the book A Separate Reality by Carlos Castaneda. So Don Juan is saying that he has always believed that being a warrior is most suitable. And I think ever since I was a kid, because I've been practicing martial arts and mental practices since I was around 13 years old. And I think I believe the same thing, that to be a warrior or a fighter is most suitable. And that may have come from, I come from a family with a lot of mental abuse, physical abuse, drug and alcohol abuse, even sexual abuse. And I came up as a kid in that family who was always willing to fight and speak up. I wasn't personally sexually abused or even physically abused, and I think that's because of my warrior spirit. I was always willing to fight, and if you tried to come at me and touch me, it was going to be a thing. And if it was, if you were a kid toucher, the world was going to know. And so that was my fighting spirit, and I think it served me well in my family. And it seemed to me when I was watching, the kids and the adults who didn't fight back and who didn't say anything, they never did themselves any good by being silent or not standing up for themselves. It seemed like they just took on more harm and allowed more harm to go on around them than if they would have stood up and fought for themselves or fought for the people around them. So they didn't have warrior spirits. And they had harder lives for it than I did. A lot of times we can be afraid to fight back or speak up because we think life's going to be harder for it. But looking at the people around me who haven't spoken up for themselves and who haven't fought back have had a much harder life, and they allowed for other people to have harder lives for it. So when I got my divorce, I decided that I'd rather die than live the life that I saw around me. I saw couples that were married, and maybe they had been married for a long time, but they were miserable. And I saw people with jobs they claimed to like, and they were miserable. All the adults around me looked miserable, and so I decided I'd rather die than live like that. And Don Juan says being prepared to die is an indulgence. And I'm kind of learning that now. I went through the phase of being prepared to die rather than live like everybody else. And so I pushed away a lot of things that would have been good for me, or a lot of people that would have been good for me. And so I would say that I indulged in doing without, to the point where I became homeless. I decided to be homeless rather than be around anybody or anything that kind of represented that life that I was trying to get away from. And I wouldn't say that I was prepared to die fighting other people. I was just prepared to die fighting for the life that I wanted. And I guess around my divorce, because there was a lot of fighting in my marriage. And after my divorce, I realized that all the fighting that I was willing to do, up until then, the arguing or fighting for the things I believed in, it was useless, especially against people who understand a warrior spirit. Manipulative people, I've said it in other videos, they will use your warrior spirit against you, and you'll get tangled up in situations where you're just fighting and fighting and fighting. And the other person or other people aren't necessarily involved in solving a problem. They just love the fights. And so I had to let that being willing to fight die away. And Carlos in the past has said that his parents have injured him. And if you've seen my video, and you're going to have to watch the last video to understand where this one's coming from, there are parents in the background fighting. And Don Juan says, yeah, a man's spirit can be injured, but not the way that you think. And I think this is true too, because I grew up around, like I said, all that abuse. And I know other people who have too. And people in my family and people that I've seen that have gone through this, they're totally broken over parents who have fought or parents who are an alcoholic or whatever. And I would say, knowing myself, that your spirit does not have to be injured for that. There's other ways that that injure your spirit. And I would say things that injured my spirit were, I spent a lot of times on wasting time on video games. And, not even, not preparing food for myself, good food for myself. So, the spirit of being lazy in food preparation and just using a microwave, or depending on welfare for our well-being rather than taking care of one another. I think those are the ways that my spirit was injured. People or incidences that were, parents will say they want to make their kids' life easier. And I think that's injurious. And throughout life, you'll come across that a lot. There'll be people that they want an easy button. And if you are someone out in the world trying to express yourself and achieve goals, they'll want to give you an easy button or suggest easy buttons for you, or try to talk you down from what you want to do. Just do something easier. And I think those are the things that are injurious towards our spirit. And it can wear you down if you're around people who keep coming at you either outright and very forcefully trying to force you into these ways of life, or just the people that come at you like little by little tiny, barely noticeable waves, just wearing your spirit down. And Don Juan says, the spirit of a warrior isn't geared towards indulging or complaining. And I like this saying. And if I want to know if a person standing next to me for any endeavor at all is a warrior or has gone through the warrior phase, I can listen to their words and know, do they complain? Or do I get lured into complaining? And I can watch their actions and know, do they indulge? And I can watch their actions and see if they are indulgent and if they encourage me towards indulgence. And I don't see an asterisk next to this statement. And what I mean by that is, it's not unless. A warrior doesn't complain unless. A warrior doesn't indulge unless. There is no unless. A warrior doesn't complain and a warrior doesn't indulge, and that's it. And nor is a warrior geared towards winning or losing. And that could seem, antithetical to what people think about warriors. But I think what it is a warrior is so present in the moment that he has no thought towards winning or losing. He is completely engrossed in this moment without distraction. If it were a fight and someone was throwing a left hook, he's not worried about winning or losing the fight. He's worrying about countering the left hook without distraction and thinking about winning or losing. If you're in the middle of an endeavor and you're thinking about winning or losing, that's taking energy away from this moment, and it distracts from the endeavor. And Don Juan says, the spirit of a warrior is to struggle. And that is to say that these forces, natural and man-made, are always forcing themselves on us. And to keep our spirit alive through all this, it takes a struggle at first. And we go into that in different parts of the book. You go through a warrior phase, and then you become someone who can see. And those things can kind of fall away. Every battle is a warrior's last battle on earth. And I've been practicing this approach every day lately, and I can say that it has given me way more energy. I'm up at 3:30, and I can go to 11 or 3:30 all over again. So I can give more to my days, and I'm more focused within the moment. Knowing today could be my last day gives me a freedom from worldly concerns and frees me up to express my own personal spirit without interruption. This lightens my heart, and I laugh even more when attacked or when things go wrong, not out of lack of understanding or playing the fool, but out of complete understanding of the foolishness of clinging to indulgences and grievances. And so I laugh and laugh. Now I'll warn you, though, that when you laugh where others fret or where others worry, you will get blowback and confrontation, as if being worried expresses more concern or more action toward our endeavors. It does not. It is a waste of energy. Once again, this has been Coach Brian with Northwest Elite Spirit. Face life's battles like a warrior. Like, subscribe, comment, share, and of course, practice. Thank you. Go to northwestelitespirit.com for access to my library suggestions, my blog, my shop, consultations, and elite performance paid plans. Thank you. Go to northwestelitespirit.com for access to my library suggestions, my blog, my shop, consultations, and paid plans. Link in description. Thank you.